Hello everyone, back to you in today's second video update. So we've already done the weekend forecast. You can find that video here on the home page. Just scroll down the page a little bit and it's above Snowdesk. And there's also the written version. You can get that from buttons at the top page. It's going to be a very interesting week's weather, and I'll let you have a look at that and see what you think. So this is the one you've been waiting for. This is the one that's had you on the edge of your seat in anticipation. This is the CFS 6 months look ahead. I know how much you all love the CFS 6 month look ahead, and here it is for you on this Saturday evening. Not really. But it is a CFS 6 month look ahead, not really in terms of how much you all enjoy watching it. But we're going to have a look at the long-range CFS V2 models. It does exactly what the name says on the tin, really. We're going to go 6 months ahead with the CFS V2. So we're going to start next month in November 2017, and we're going to extend to April 2018. Now, the further out we go with this, the more unreliable it becomes. It just really is just for fun. The first month or two have some scientific merit, because if model is working correctly, hopefully that's the most reliable part of all of this. But as you go to sort of 3, 4, 5 and 6 months away, it just gets more and more unreliable. And to be honest, I shouldn't really go that far out, but the CFS 6 month look ahead has become something of an institution now for the amount of time we've been doing it. And I know quite a few of you have a bit of a laugh when you see the CFS 6 months look ahead. So I sort of keep it going because I know it would be missed if I stopped, or at least I think it would be missed. Maybe it wouldn't be missed, who knows, but I enjoy doing this one. Anyway, so I'm going to get on with it for you right now. We're going to start off with the 700 millibar height anomalies for the next 6 months. Then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature, and then we'll have a look at corresponding precipitation anomalies that go with these heights. Will it be get behind the sage? Long time for snow lovers. Find out right now. So we're going to start off with next month, with November 2017. And if everything's working correctly with model, this should be the most reliable part of all of this. So what we see for November is that we've got below average heights up to the north and northwest of the country. Low pressure there, above average heights down to the south through the Atlantic. And that brings a jet stream through the country rather like that. So this is a very zonal looking signal for November to start us off. It's westerly, it's Atlantic driven, it's zonal. We've got high pressure south, low pressure to the north. Tight rates across the Atlantic. Might even be a little bit stormy because that's quite a deep trough up there around Greenland and Iceland. But overall, it's a mild, wet and windy signal for November. Then we go through to December, 2 months away, so maybe a little bit of sort of reliability in this part as well, although of course much less so than what we're looking at in November. So for December, we find very unsettled looking month, really. Below average heights centering just to the west of the country. Above average heights are down in the Atlantic. Through there, and we bring the jet stream through like that. So this looks like another wet, windy, unsettled month. This might be even more unsettled compared to November, because this trough of below average heights is closer in to the country, and we bring the air in from sort of a northwesterly type direction from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. So this one also is looking very unsettled, maybe a little bit cooler as well within that trough, but the main thing is that it's very unsettled, it's wet, it's windy. I will think storms are certainly possible at times, severe gales may be probable in the north and the west of the country in particular at times through December 2017 if this was to come off. Then we go through to January. This is how January 2018 is looking. We get off to the new year looking like this. So it looks like we've got the Azores high pulling back towards Bermuda. So we've got above average heights over there. Then we've got this deep area below average heights still continuing around Greenland and Iceland. Otherwise, it looks like pressure is lifting out a little bit, and there's not much else to work on, really, across Europe. Now, to me, this looks as though heights are rising within the 700 millibar flow somewhere across Europe. So if heights are rising down here, and then again over there, if heights are rising there, then this is going to be very mild. We'll pull the air up from a southerly southwesterly direction. If heights are rising over here, up over Scandinavia, and then again over there, then of course things get more interesting, because that could start to turn the winds into the east. But I think essentially there's not enough to work on to say where those heights are rising. All we can say is that from November and December, which are very stormy looking months, not quite the case for January, because this trough is much more penned in around Greenland, Iceland. The Azores high looks like it's pulling back towards Bermuda around here, which leaves us in sort of an area that's not being defined particularly well by the model. Now, when you see the temperatures, expect this to look very mild. It will still be showing very mild conditions for January, I'm quite certain of that. Purely because that's the default setup for the model. But I don't think it's quite that straightforward based on that 700 millibar height anomaly. And then we just revert back for February. So this is how February is looking. It looks like we go very stormy again. So we've got this really deep area of below average heights coming back to the northwest country. We strengthen the ridge out across the Atlantic as well and build it into Europe also. So again, this is just very, very, probably quite stormy. It's zonal, it's westerly. We blast the westerlies through, light back quite obviously, maybe in a southwesterly tilt, which could, to the flow, which could bring some very, very mild air up from the tropical part of the Atlantic. The one saving grace, if you want colder conditions, is that there are some areas above average heights up here, around Svalbard to north of Scandinavia, but really that is being blown away by this tremendously deep trough in the Atlantic and this strong ridge that we have through the Atlantic and into southern Europe. Keep in mind that is now at month 4, so obviously we are getting into the realm of just the fun. Not much fun if you want cold weather, of course. This is how March is looking, 5 months away. This one also looking unsettled and Atlantic driven. Looks like we're in for a real Atlantic onslaught over the next few months, you have to say that. Could be very, very wet indeed, and no doubt some real windstorms coming through as well. So that's just a continuation of the winter pattern really, which is very mild, wet and stormy. We get through to April, 6 months away just for fun. This one does hold out some colder potential. What's happening here is that we're building heights close to southern Greenland. We've got low pressure there in the central Atlantic. Also got an area of below average heights around to the east of the UK. And the winds could well be pulling in from sort of an east or northeasterly direction, which could be really quite cold actually in April. But it's 6 months away, so I mean, it isn't worth worrying about in any way, shape or form. Let's come back to November with the temperature anomalies. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, if you want cold weather this winter, then this is going to be very, very brutal. So it is get behind the stage long time with these temperature anomalies. And that is not just the case for the UK, it will be the case for virtually all parts of Europe as well. So this is how November is looking. It's a stormy signal with low pressure all in around here. High pressure is around there. We're bringing a flat westerly flow through like that through the UK and into Europe as well. So it's milder than average virtually from the whole of Western Europe over towards Russia and all points in between. If we have a look at December, so here we go again in December. If anything, it's even stormier with low pressure around here. High pressure is down there, and again bringing the flow in from off the Atlantic like that. Lots of wet, stormy and mild weather in December. January, the first month of 2018, It's also looking mild. Now, this is for 1 month that might be doing something a little bit different. Heights may be starting to rise there. Possibly heights are starting to rise there in January, but low pressure is becoming blocked out a little bit, we thought, up there. And also the Azores high is pulling out to that sort of area. Whoops, that's gone a little bit wrong, so let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of that and then bring it back. Sorry about this. So the Azores high looks like it's pulling out to about there. Low pressure is becoming penned in up there. And heights may be rising somewhere across Europe, but we can't really say where those heights will be rising. Month 4 is February. Very mild again for February. The CFS is really going for it now. It's going for an exceptionally mild winter across not only the UK and Ireland, but also the whole of Europe as well, coming out exceptionally mild throughout the whole of the winter. It continues into March, just an onslaught of remorseless and relentless mild warm weather through the whole of the period. Then we finally get to April and we have a change. We are past the winter now. You will want it to be warming up, and what happens? It turns cooler, so the model isn't predicting anything colder than average, but it is bringing back average temperatures quite clearly from where we are through most of this, which is in the either mild, exceptionally mild, or even warm temperature categories in terms of averages across the UK and Europe. In terms of all of those months, quite clearly there's fairly dramatic cool down going on into April, just when we don't want it. And then finally for precipitation, so expect these to be really quite wet indeed. This is how November is looking. It's looking wetter than average for the UK and for much of Western Europe as well. Remember, in November we have low pressure around here, we have high pressure down there, and we bring the jet stream in from the Atlantic into British Isles and Europe like that. It continues into December with a wetter than average month being seen. Also November and December are both coming out quite substantially wetter than average for the UK and for much of Western Europe. A slightly drier signal there into January. Just hints that there might be something a little bit different starting to happen in January, but not enough to be working on to say that this could be a colder month. Just perhaps hints at something a little bit different in January. But then February takes us back into that relentless and remorseless Atlantic-driven weather. So very, very wet month being signalled in February. So we've got November, December and February all coming out significantly wetter than average. January is also on the wetter side, really, for Northern and Western Europe, but to less of a degree, particularly for the UK. That is how March is looking. So beginning to dry out now in March. We're heading into the spring, of course, so not quite the same gradients to drive in those rain-bearing weather systems that we have in the winter. So it is a little bit on the wetter than average side in March, but less so than in the winter months. And then in April, 6 months away, just for fun, and we might be inching towards something a little bit drier and colder there in April. Notice the wetter than average precipitation anomalies are across Central Europe, and up here it is beginning to look just perhaps a little bit drier, hinting that we might be getting some high pressure coming through there. The upshot would be to turn the winds into the north or the northeast, rather like that, which would probably be bringing in some colder conditions as well. So that's just when we don't want it. We want things to be starting to warm up in April and we revert to something colder. But other than that, and that's 6 months away, so obviously it's completely unreliable anyway, but other than that, it is relentless and remorseless mild weather starting from next month. Well, it's actually started this month, probably, but certainly from terms of models, updates starting from next month, just running all the way through the winter and into the spring, start of the spring as well in March. possibly hints of something a little bit different happening in January, but that's clutching at straws a bit to try and find something for people who like colder weather. If you like mild weather, this is a fantastic update. It doesn't get better than this. If you don't want cold and snow in the winter, it really doesn't get better, other than that colder hint for April, and that's so far away you can't worry about it anyway. But it doesn't get better than this, really, if you want a mild Atlantic-driven zonal, wet, windy, stormy winter. So we'll see what Mull has to say next month. This has definitely been Get Behind the Stage long time for cold lovers and snow lovers. Nothing at all, really, of interest whatsoever, and in fact it all looks rather nasty for people who want cold weather, but I'm sure it's been a very, very good update for those that like it mild. Right, we'll see what CFS V2 has to say when we do a 6-month look ahead next month. And tomorrow, of course, we've got the 7th Winter 2017-18 update. I think that's going to be very, very interesting. And if you're feeling a bit deflated from a colder perspective with this update, there may be a little bit of good news in that 7th update. But I won't say any more than that. Come back tomorrow and have a look at that. But that's all for now. And also say tomorrow as well, because I was trying to round things up then, but I've got more to tell you about tomorrow. Sorry about that, my head's a bit frazzled. So also tomorrow, we have got a big day coming up tomorrow. We've got the next Christmas update, the little written update for Christmas that we started doing through October. We've got the 3rd one of those coming up tomorrow. And also tomorrow, as well as winter update, we've got the ECMWF seasonal interpretation as well. So there'll be loads and loads of updates coming up tomorrow. It's going to be one of the most interesting days I've done for a very long time. Do keep checking back tomorrow for all of those updates. But that's all for now for this Saturday evening. Thanks for watching.